Welcome along to all strange historians. This series is about Johnny Depp's strange Hollywood history. It is a division of my strange Hollywood history series. This time around, we've got a little bit of news for you. It is going to be about Johnny Depp and Al Pacino and others, and they're creating a biopic about Amedeo Modigliani. Now, you've heard the name Modigliani pronounced a zillion different ways, but you'll be interested to know that the G is silent. And so it's not as easy to say as Modigliani, right? And it's very tempting to say Modigliani, but it's Modigliani. Already, so that's how we're going to pronounce it, since that is the correct way to do it. All right, so let's see what we've got here. Starting off, there was, and this is breaking news. This actually happened not too long ago. I'm over on pinkvilla.com, and here's the interesting article they put together. It says Johnny Depp teams up with Riccardo Scamarcio. Yes, Riccardo Scamarcio, Pierre Ninni, hope I'm saying that right, and Al Pacino for Modigliani biopic. Read the details. All right, let's do it. Johnny Depp, who is returning to filmmaking with Modigliani biopic, has roped in Riccardo Scamarcio. Oh, wow. Hold on. Oh, my God. Scamarcio. Sorry. Riccardo Scamarcio. Riccardo Scamarcio. Riccardo Scamarcio. I'm repeating this 3 times, not just for myself, but for you. Riccardo Scamarcio. Good God, who is this guy? Hold on a second. Before we go any further, let's find out more about this dude, because I don't know anything about him. And part of this series is to talk about the different people. So, all right, this is a good looking dude. Hold on a second. Let's see what we've got here. Hang tight. I'll pull up some information about him so you can, oh, you got a picture of him right there. Hold on. That's him on the left with the wavy hair. Alrighty. Let's see what they got to say about him on Wikipedia. So he's 43 years old as of today, born in 79, Italian actor and film producer. Got it. Son of a painter. He went to train as an actor at the blah, blah, blah in Rome. All right. So it looks like he was in a film called 3 Steps Over Heaven. And I don't really know much about the dude. Filmography. Seems like Italy is his place. There's nothing here that I'm familiar with that he may have done. But already, well, maybe you are. And I'm sure he's certainly an attractive fellow, clearly a talented guy and a smart guy. So I'm sure he will have a long and illustrious career. All right, let's see what else we've got. Pierre Ninni, don't know who that is either. Is it Ninni? Let's go ahead and pull up some information about him and see who this gentleman is as well. Alrighty, Pierre. All right, that's him in this image right here that you're looking at. That's him on the left with that beautiful sweep of hair. All right, this dude, I'll pull up Wikipedia for that. Born in 1989. All right, so he's 34. A French actor. All right, so we got an Italian and a French dude. Got it. He was in a film called Laughing Out Loud, The Army of Crime, Romantics Anonymous, and something else. All right, well, Johnny Depp seems to be going after people that I assume are popular in Europe, and I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. Let's see, because I think, let's see where he's getting the money from for this. I don't know if a production company is doing it, but I think that he's going to a film market in order to do pre-sales in Europe. And for those of you who don't know how Hollywood works, I'll tell you a little bit about how distribution works. Johnny Depp, let's just say when his career first started, let's say in the 90s, right? Or I know the 80s, I know. But let's talk about the early 90s or the mid 90s. So you got a scale of 1 to 100. And in Johnny Depp's early days, and don't get mad at me, I'm just throwing out a number just for the heck of it. So here's my, let's say a 30, okay, a 30 before Edward Scissorhands and people really knew who he was. And that's fine, by the way. That's fine because you had other 80s actors that maybe, and I know we're talking about the 90s now, but you'd have, let's say, Judd Nelson or Molly Ringwald or an Andrew McCarthy or a Demi Moore, people like that. And they may have been, let's say, a 50 or a 60. And so what distributors want is a 70. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go out and find a 70. What you do is you piece them together. And so let's just say Johnny Depp in the 80s or early 90s or mid 90s was a 30. And then somebody else is a 40 and somebody else is a 20. And so, okay, the distributors now have something that they can sell. So when you go to film market, there's two different things. There's a film festival and there's a film market. And the reason you go to film festivals is one, they're kind of fun. The second thing is you want to gauge audience reaction before distribution gets due, because you might have time to maybe tweak stuff, right? But also you want to get reviews and you want to maybe win awards. And the reason you want to do that first is when you go to a film market, which is like the Cannes. I know Cannes is called a film festival, but honestly, it's a market. And the reason it's a market is the film plays, and then the producers out in the lobby, as an example, and the distributors come over to them and they say, okay, who's in it again? And what's it about? And they don't even have to see the movie. They don't really care. And they're like, okay, I got Johnny Depp, I got Al Pacino, and I got this person and that person. And they're like, okay, great. And they grab their calculator and they say, all right, that's worth, $4 million. I want to buy the rights to distribute this film in Romania. And then somebody else will come along and they'll say, okay, that sounds good. I want to buy the rights to distribute this film in Australia and New Zealand. Got it? And then somebody else will come along and say, listen, I'm in the Czech Republic. I can give you $1.5 million. I'm just throwing numbers out there. None of these numbers are real. And so what you do is when you make a film, you can pre-sell. And so when you hear stories about how this actor is financing it himself or stuff like that, it's really not true. I mean, it can be true, but in many cases, it's not true. What you're doing is you're getting commitments from distributors that they guarantee that if the film is done and it has the cast that you say it's going to have, and you meet all the other criteria, then they will give you X amount for the distribution rights in that film for, let's just say, 3 years to 5 years, that sort of thing as an example. And you could do the same thing with, let's just say, Netflix or HBO, whatever it is. It's like, okay, this sounds good. It's great that you've got that cast, you've got that director attached. If you deliver it to me with all of these, the criteria, everything is checked off, you will get, $7 million from us. So whatever it is. Now from there, you're able to go to your bank. Okay. You can go to investors as well, but let's just say you go to the bank and you've got your revolving line of credit. And so the bank's going to be like, okay, well, that's fine. Yes, well, we're happy to give you $20 million, but how are you going to pay us back? And then you show them the contracts. And you say, well, look, Romania is giving me $3 million and Australia, New Zealand's giving me, $5 million, and the Czech Republic's giving me $1.5 million, and Slovakia is giving me 500 grand, and China is giving us 9 million, whatever it is. It's different distributors. And so that's how one of the many ways that a film could be financed. Okay. And so Johnny Depp clearly is trying to find the best cast that he can. Al Pacino, I found out a little history about this with him. At first, I thought it was just a friendship thing. He's like saying, hey, man, I'm having trouble getting work here and all this other nonsense with what's going on. Can you help me out? So at first I thought that, and it still could be the case. But then I found out, and I'll see if we could find it in this article, that Al Pacino has been wanting to do this movie since the 80s, right? And I think he was working with, or trying to work with, what's his name? Martin Scorsese. It's not Scorsese, it's Scorsese, right? And so he's been wanting to do it for a long time. And so it looks like now it's coming to fruition. And so when Johnny Depp hired Riccardo Scamarcio and Pierre Nini, and I hope I'm saying their names right, part of that could be the distribution agreements where they're saying, okay, listen, if you want to do the pre-sales in Italy, you got to hire a name actor in Italy. And Johnny Depp's like, yeah, no problem. And then probably the same thing with pre-sales in France. In fact, the pre-sales for those two countries may have been sufficient to even cover the budget. I mean, I don't know, but I'll read the rest of this article and we'll find out. But that's a little background information on how movies are financed. One of a zillion different ways, but that's one way to do it. A good example, if you want in your mind, is Woody Allen. Woody Allen has spent most of his career shooting in New York City, right? But then when he started having all kinds of weird problems and the canceling and people screaming about him and all the horrible things, all he did was pivot. And his producers worked out deals with distributors. And like, okay, listen, do you want to finance Woody Allen's next movie? And they're like, hell yeah. Are you kidding me? But he has to shoot it in Paris. And so Woody Allen just, okay, fine. New York, Paris, whatever. Okay, Vienna. Okay, London. Okay, different places. And so that's why a lot of Woody Allen's most recent films are done in Europe, not necessarily because he wants them to be done in Europe. Given a choice, I think he'd rather be at his home in Manhattan, eat breakfast, go out the door, shoot, and then go home, right? And go watch, games at Madison Square Garden or whatever. But okay, you go where the money is. Now let's read the rest of this article. I've got a couple of articles pulled up, and then I've got some information on the subject matter. So here's the key highlights. It says Johnny Depp is making a comeback to filmmaking after a long hiatus of 25 years. What an unusual way to phrase that sentence, isn't it? I guess they're saying that he hasn't maybe directed in 25 years. Probably, right? I mean, when you associate the word filmmaking, what do you think? I mean, it can mean anything, right? But I think here we're talking about directing and producing, being part of the crew as opposed to just the cast. All right, here we go. Next bullet point. His next directorial venture is a biopic based on the life of Italian artist Amedeo Modigliani. Say that 10 times. Go ahead. Modigliani, 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 Modigliani. The project is headlined by Italian actor Riccardo Scamarcio, Pierre Ninni, and Al Pacino. Johnny Depp, the supremely talented Hollywood actor, filmmaker, is now creating headlines with his massive lineup of upcoming films. The American actor returned to the Cannes Film Festival with his 2023 edition. It's Cannes, by the way. It's not Cannes. I know people like to say Cannes. It's not. It's Cannes. I know Cannes an ugly word. I know it. I know it. But, it's Cannes. Cannes Film Festival. You associate it with a can because you say Cannes. And if you say Cannes, so many people think it's Cannes. If you say Cannes, you sound like an idiot. But trust me, it's Cannes. With the world premiere of his ambitious project, Jean de Barry. I don't really talk like that. I'm just having fun. The project, which marked Johnny Depp's first outing as an actor after the completion of his defamation case trial, is helmed by Mai Wen. By the way, the reason I say things in accents sometimes, for those of you who have been listening to me for a long time, you know how much I hate it when you hear people talking about things in South America, right? You know it. Like you'll watch somebody on the news and they'll be like, there was an earthquake and it was felt in Costa Rica, it was felt in Brazil, it was felt in Chile, and it was felt in, and they go through everything. But then when they say Chile, they have to say it like that, like they're from there, like they have some kind of accent. Brazil, they say fine, right? Costa Rica is fine. Uruguay is fine. Everything is perfectly normal. They talk like they're from Kansas, but all of a sudden it has to be Chile. It's just so ridiculous. So when I do this, I'm not trying to impress you like, oh, he speaks French. No, I'm making fun of stupid stuff like that. So that's how that works. Who also plays the protagonist? Oh, really? However, it is buzz surrounding Depp's upcoming directorial venture that has taken over the Cannes Film Festival this year. All right, so let's see what it was. A pretty long article. All right, Johnny Depp finalizes the lead cast of his next Modigliani biopic. Kind of a weird sentence there, right? It sounds like he did two Modigliani biopics. It should be Johnny Depp finalizes the lead cast of his forthcoming Modigliani biopic. According to the exclusive reports published by Deadline, sorry, I went to New York schools, okay, which sounds awful, but they're really good schools. And so when I read things like this, bad grammar, plus I have my copy of all my different, books that I learned in English class. So very poor. Who wrote this? What a poorly written sentence. All right, let's continue. According to the exclusive reports published by Deadline, it has been confirmed that Johnny Depp is making a comeback to film direction. It should be film directing. After a long hiatus of over 25 years. The famous star is donning the director's hat once again for the upcoming biopic, which is based on the life of Italian artist Amedeo Modigliani. The highly anticipated project, which is speculated to be titled Modi. And the reason it is, by the way, is that's what his friends called him. His friends called him Modi, as did, I think, his girlfriends as well. He had a lot of girlfriends. Modigliani was loaded. He was packed to the gills with girlfriends. They loved him. Italian guy, right? Can't go wrong. has now garnered the attention of film fanatics across the globe with its stellar lead cast. Alrighty, the Deadline reports have confirmed that the famous Italian actor Riccardo Scamarcio. Okay, so he's famous. For those listening to me in Italy right now, I apologize. I had no idea Riccardo Scamarcio was so famous in your country, but I'm very glad that he is. That's really cool. And acclaimed French actor Pierre Niney. Awesome. And iconic actor Al Pacino are roped in to headline Johnny Depp's ambitious project. Scamarcio, who is best known for his role in John Wick, Chapter 2. I've never seen it. Don't know what that is. John Wick. I should know, right? Is that a movie with that guy? What's that guy? Hold on, let me pull up John Wick. For those who don't know, let us learn together. John Wick. John Wick. Don't know what that is. I've heard of it, but I don't. Oh, Keanu Reeves. Okay, I got it. So it's a Keanu Reeves movie. We're going to talk about Keanu Reeves, by the way. I like that dude. He's had a cool career. We're going to talk about him in Hollywood, strange Hollywood history, because he's had kind of a strange career as well. And I say that with love and affection, by the way. Okay. Pierre Niney, who is well known for his role in Yves Saint Laurent. Yves. You know how I know it's pronounced Yves? Because of Jacques Cousteau. When I was a kid, I had a book. I still actually have the book about Jacques Cousteau. And his middle name, I think, is Yves. And I remember saying it to somebody. My family was very smart. And I was a kid. Must have been, oh God, let me think, probably 5th grade, right? And I said, oh, I got this great book. It's about sharks. And it's Jacques Yves Cousteau. What the hell do I know, right? I know, but 5th grade, cut me some slack. And he said, no, it's Jacques Yves Cousteau. And so so I assume that Yves Saint Laurent is the same way. If I'm wrong about that, leave them in the comments below, and I will approve that comment. I didn't even know that there was a movie about Laurent. That's pretty cool. Check that out. We'll play the role of French artist Maurice Utrillo. Godfather star Al Pacino, on the other hand, will appear as international art collector Gang Nat. Okay, so I actually have information on these guys. And let me read this article. Oh, it's almost done. And then I'm going to read another article, and then I'm going to show you information on who these people are, as well as images, which I think you'll enjoy. So let's go ahead and wrap our mind around that. Okay. All right. About Modigliani biopic. As per the reports, the Johnny Depp directorial is set in 1916. Oh, I love that. I love it. And will focus on the life of the Italian artist and the eventful 48 hours, which had him on the run from police through the streets and bars of Paris at the time of war. All right, Johnny Depp, if you're listening, or whoever wrote the screenplay, I totally love this. Totally love it. And I'll tell you why. It's called a biopic, fine. But one thing that's always bothered me is when you watch movies, and it doesn't matter how long they are. It could be an hour and a half, could be 2 hours, could be 3 hours. You cannot capture somebody's entire life. Think about you. Whoever's listening to me right now, chances are you're not famous. You're probably not rich. You're not some amazing artist, right? But you're a regular person, which is fine. But you have an entire lifetime. How can you tell your life in an hour and a half? You can't, right? And so I like the idea of saying, all right, well, let's go ahead and grab these 48 hours, if this is truly what it's about, which sounds great, 48 hours, and let's capture this moment in time in his life, okay? And we'll just tell the story to help you have an understanding of this artist who a lot of people might not know too much about. And there's been interesting biopics before. One of the best is probably, oh God, what is it called? Is it 32? Glenn Gould. You guys know that biopic? That was a great one. I talk about it all the time. Oh, here it is. Yes, I knew it. 32 short films about Glenn Gould. If you ever want to see an amazing film, 32 short films about Glenn Gould is a 1993 Canadian biographical anthology film about the pianist Glenn Gould. I read that from his Wikipedia is right here. But I mean, my God, what they did is they probably think like I think, like, how the hell do you tell Glenn Gould's life in an hour and a half or whatever it is? And so you can't. You can't. And so what they did is they made 32 short films to talk about different aspects of his life. And some of them are, first person, third person, whatever, animation. I mean, just they did all kinds of cool things to just sort of tell the story. So you learn a little bit about his life. And so this is pretty exciting stuff here. Let's see. His desire to prematurely end his career and leave the city is dismissed by fellow bohemians. Meanwhile, he gets a chance to meet an international collector who holds the power to change his life. That sounds cool. I'll tell you why. When this movie comes out, or as we learn more about it, I'll talk about mythic storytelling and about how you can apply mythic storytelling templates to your own life to recognize the people in your life and what roles they play, as if your life is a story, because your life is a story. And so here you have a story where Modigliani is clearly the hero, right? The hero of his own story anyway. And so there's going to be a first act, a second act, a third act. There's going to be all kinds of shifts and turns. And then you have this story here of an international collector who holds the power to change his life. That's a mentorship role, right? And the word mentor comes from the name Mentor, who worked for Odysseus, right? And then when Odysseus went off to the war, which is covered in the Iliad, Mentor was with Penelope, who was Odysseus's wife, and Telemachus, who was Odysseus's son, right? And so Athena, it came down from Mount Olympus, and she took on the body of Mentor in order to be the mentor for Telemachus, in order to get him on his own hero's journey as well. And so this is exciting. This is exciting. The project will also feature many talented actors from Italian cinema and Hollywood in key roles. The casting of the film, which is expected to start rolling by the second half of 2023 in Budapest, awesome, is currently in its final stages. Very, very, very cool. All right, let's see what we've got here. I think that's pretty much it for this particular article. Let me jump over to another one that I have, and then we'll start talking about a little bit about the artist, but let's learn a little bit more about the film before we go any further, shall we? So let's see, here we are. Let's go ahead. Uh-oh, is that what I wanted to pull up? I think so. No, wait, hold on, let me back up. We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. Okay, so this is The Guardian. Let's go ahead and read this as well. Johnny Depp casts Al Pacino in biopic of Italian artist Amedeo Modigliani. Pacino is the star as art collector Maurice Gagnat, right? And I know some of these words are probably silent, yeah, but all right. In Modi, a drama about the Italian painter's life in Paris, it will be Depp's second film as director. Yeah, I think his first one was with, was it Marlon Brando, wasn't it? Let me go ahead and take care of this. Let's see if it says anything about that here. All right, Johnny Depp has confirmed that Al Pacino has accepted a role in the biopic of artist Amedeo Modigliani, which will become Depp's second film as director. Pacino will play the role of real-life art collector Maurice Gagnat, okay, whose portrait was painted in 1916 by Pierre Renoir. All right, let me go ahead and pull that up. I think many of you might find that pretty fascinating. For those who don't know who that might be, let's go ahead and grab that. Is this it right here? Here it is. Okay. Let's close that. All right, so there he is, right? Handsome fellow. So it'll be interesting, won't it, to see what Hollywood does, right? The magic of Hollywood makeup, because you look at a gentleman like that and you don't say to yourself, Al Pacino, right? Typically, and Al Pacino's a handsome fellow. Al Pacino is certainly a talented fellow, but he's not French, but all right. But that's okay. Mediterranean, right? He's got the Italian thing going on. He's got the beautiful color in his face, and obviously he could he's played all kinds of roles. But either way, this was painted in 1916. The style, as we can see, is Impressionism, and it's a portrait, oil on canvas. But anyway, so that's that. But I have some other information about this fellow if you want to learn more about him. In fact, why don't we pull that up right now before we go any further? By the way, if it's not Maurice, it could be Ganat, right? No G. Probably the G is probably silent, just like a Modigliani, right? Maurice Ganat. If you speak French, please leave a comment below. And if it is helpful to me, I will approve it. And if it's not, I might approve it anyway, but who knows? Let's see, Maurice Ganat. Ganat. I'm going to just leave the G silent. Sounds more exotic that way, doesn't it? All right, let's see what we can pull up about Mr. Ganat. Let's see what information is available. Doesn't seem to be much. Wow. This will be interesting that there isn't much. I mean, you've got his portrait here, but not really. Wow, there's really not much about this guy. Sorry about that, you guys. There really isn't anything. Holy cow. I mean, okay, there's clearly some books out there, right? Some biographies or autobiographies about other people where he played some kind of important role in their life, but as of right now, there does not seem to be much on him. But either way, handsome fellow, interesting fellow, clearly a smart fellow. So we'll learn more about him in the future. So right now, and as information becomes available or as I come across, I'll share that with you guys. All right, let's go back to the article, shall we? Okay. All right. Painted in 1916. Okay, in Modi, a drama adapted from a play by Dennis McIntyre. I've actually been trying to find some information on that. It's not been easy, actually, as well. So what fascinates me is, well, the person who wrote the script, I wonder if they're even still around anymore. Let's see what we could find out about that. I looked on IMDb. I can look it up again. Dennis McIntyre. Let's see. Playwright. Let's see what information I could find on him. Dennis McIntyre, dramatist, 47. Oh, is he gone? Oh, geez, he died in 1990. Wow, really? All right, this guy's gone. Dennis McIntyre. Sorry about that. Dennis McIntyre wasn't. Okay, here we go. I'm at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Festival site. Not much about him. Dennis McIntyre, born in 1942, passed away in 1990, was an award-winning American novelist and playwright who examined the ills of American society in such works as Split Second and National Anthems. He taught playwriting at the University of Michigan, where a playwriting award has been established in his honor. Let's see. I'm going to Google Modigliani and see if that comes up. Oh, here it is. Modigliani, a play in 3 acts. Very nice. Let's see. Give me a second. Let me see what I could pull up about this. Okay. Modigliani, a play in 3 acts by Dennis McIntyre. Oh, written in 1980. Interesting. Okay. All right. Here's what I got, you guys. In 1916, unable to sell his paintings and unable to work, Modigliani decides to leave Paris. A robbery attempt, aided by his painter friends Turillo and Sautin, fails, and he seeks money from Beau. Okay, it's a ZBO, but probably the Z silent, Beau, his agent, who informs him he's about to meet Sharon, an influential art dealer. Okay, so he moves some names around. Modigliani's poet/mistress, Beatrice Hastings, tries to convince him to meet Sharon himself. Frightened of failure, he finally agrees, only to discover Beau has given away his best painting. His meeting with Sharon is a disaster, and in a rage, he slashes his paintings and attempts to destroy all the work in his studio. Beatrice prevents this and forces him to realize the paintings are his life. Left alone, with no possibilities for success, Modigliani begins work again on a self-portrait. Very, very cool. This sounds like a great story. I'm really excited about this because, you think about it as far as character-wise. So you got his his mistress, right? That in some way she's a mentor, right, as well as an ally. And so in mythic storytelling, you can have the same character that can play different roles in one's life, right? I mean, you've probably had allies that became enemies, enemies that became allies. You've had shadows that became heroes. I mean, there's so many different ways this can go. So let's see, we got Italian actor Riccardo Scamarcio has been cast in the title role. All right, that's cool because Johnny Depp is what, 60 as of the time of this recording? And Modigliani died, I believe, in his 30s, right? Like 34 or something. And let's see if I could, let's see. I think that's right. I want to make sure I'm accurate here. So let me see if I can pull that up very briefly. I'm not going to talk about Modigliani. I'll talk about that another time. I actually did write a story that I think's on my channel right now, should be, about Johnny Depp traveling back in time and meeting Modigliani. Let's see. He died in, let's see what we got here. He passed away. Oh, 35. Okay, there we are. Yeah, he was born in 1884, which for those of you who know me know that that number follows me. There's different numbers that follow me over the course of my life. And one of them is 80 and the other one is 84. And it's amazing how many things I have a great interest in my life. And the numbers 80 and 84 constantly follow me. The most famous example, perhaps, might be the construction of the Dakota apartment building in New York City, which began construction in 1880 and finished in 84. Another number that follows me around is 19. So, but anyway, this isn't about me. It's just something that happened. Like I'll give you an example is Sir Frank Crisp, who built Friar Park, the estate built, owned by George Harrison of the Beatles. And he passed away in 1919. So, anyway, so it's things like that. There's more, but all right. So that's Modigliani. Let's read the rest of this article, shall we? Has been cast in the title role while French actor. All right, so I think what I was going to say is that Johnny Depp clearly is not playing Modigliani. He's putting together a excellent cast, a stellar cast, and at this point, he seems to be the director only. Whether or not he'll play a role in it at some point, who knows? I guess time will tell. While French actor Pierre Nini, is it Nini or Nini? Please let me know in the comments below. Is to play fellow artist Maurice Utrillo. Yeah, that's right. Utrillo, Maurice Utrillo. Modi is due to start shooting in Budapest, Hungary in the autumn and will be Depp's first film as director since The Brave, released in 1997. All right, Maurice Utrillo, why don't we go ahead and learn a little bit about him? Because I don't like, people do shows, whatever it is, and, oh, look what's going on. And it's like, and even articles, and it's like, it's nice to learn who we're talking about, isn't it? So let's go ahead and pull up Maurice Utrillo, shall we? So this is Wikipedia is the easiest, right? And for those of you saying, oh, he's relying on Wikipedia, listen, if you're reading about politicians, ignore it. If you're reading about celebrities, right, a Kardashian or whatever, you can believe it or not believe it. But when it comes to stuff like this, you do have people like me, okay, who are serious about, history and have this kind of knowledge, and we edit this stuff. And so when it comes to nonfiction, it's all right. All right, so we got this picture here of him. So that's what he looks like. So we got that. And then let's go ahead and see what other images we have. Okay. All right, let's see who this gentleman is. Maurice Utrillo, born 1883, passed away in 1955. French painter, specialized in cityscapes. Cool. He, the son of artist Suzanne Valadon. And okay, so he's French dude, self-taught, nice, lived a nice long life, didn't pass away until 71. So good for him. And then that's pretty much it. Nazis looted his art. Well, welcome to the world. That happened quite a bit. All right, so maybe we'll learn more about Maurice Utrillo in the future as we learn more about this film as things progress. And then what I think I might do right now is, let's see, are we going to someone else? No. All right, let's go back to, I'll leave that up actually while I read the rest of this article because I think I'm going to be going to another page after this. Alrighty, Pacino will play the role of real-life art collector Maurice Gannat, whose portrait was self-painted in 1916. Okay, we got that. According to the film's producers, Modi follows a chaotic series of events through the streets and bars of war-torn Paris in 1916, during which Modigliani is this is a quote, on the run from the police, and his desire to end his career and leave the city is dismissed by fellow bohemians. You got French artist Maurice Utrillo and the Belarusian-born Chaim Soutine. And I'm not pronouncing it that way to have fun. That I guess he's Jewish, right? Yeah, Chaim Soutine. So that is the way you'd say. In fact, I believe Gene Simmons from Kiss, I think his birth name is Chaim. In fact, before I go any further, let me just pull that up and make sure that's right, because I do not want to say anything that's inaccurate here. So Gene Simmons, I did a Hollywood history video, I think in the summer or this early autumn of 2022, where we did, stage names, right, versus real names. You have people like, Kirk Douglas, Marilyn Monroe, so many people where they just have an ethnic name. And it's like, well, all right, what are you supposed to do? So, okay, here we go. Gene Simmons, his name, he was born Chaim Witz, right, Hebrew. And I think he was born in Israel, wasn't he? Yeah, he was born in Israel. So, yeah, his name is Chaim. And here we're talking, Chaim, same thing. Chaim. Okay, cool. All right, same name. All right. So, Chaim Soutine, you want to see what he looks like? I'll, actually, look at this. All right, hold on. I'm going to show you an image in a second. But first, let me read the information that's here about Chaim Soutine. I'm assuming the T isn't silent. French painter of Belarusian Jewish origin, who made a major contribution to the expressionist movement while living and working in Paris. Inspired by classical painting in the European tradition, exemplified by the works of Rembrandt. So that's good. And there's others, but I don't want to sit here and read every name I come across. His career. Okay. After the war, art dealer began to champion Soutine's work and started being shown carcass paintings. Oh, God. Soutine once horrified his neighbors by keeping an animal carcass in his studio so that he could paint it, called Carcass of Beef. The stench drove them to send for the police, oh God, whom Soutine promptly lectured on the relative importance of art over hygiene. Oh boy. There's a story that Marc Chagall saw the blood from the carcass leak out onto the corridor outside Soutine's room and rushed out screaming, "Someone has killed Soutine!" Soutine painted 10 paintings in the series. All right, you guys, guess what we're doing? We're going to be doing a video on the strange art of Chaim Soutine, and I think I'll show that. What do you think? All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you two portraits that Modigliani painted of, give me a sec, let's pull that up. Maurice Utrillo. Give me a sec, we'll grab that. All right. Wow, we're still on that. Okay, let me close Utrillo. We're not talking about him. We're talking about Modigliani. Here we are. Okay, check it out. So, not the most attractive image we've ever seen in our life, but either way, sexy, full lips, right? Nothing wrong with that. Nice, prominent, healthy nose. Interesting eyes, looking up. Nice, brown, thick hair, and lovely, lovely clothes. And so we'll talk about Modigliani's art. We'll talk about the strange history of Modigliani's art in another episode, I promise. And so there he is again, once again, with those sexy red lips that so many people find attractive. And obviously lots of oxygen intake with that prominent, strong nose. Interesting how the eyes are like that. So Modigliani had a fascination with masks. Well, we'll talk about that in the future. All right, so that's how that goes. Let's go back to the article, shall we? We have got, there it is. And let me close that one up. And then before we end, I'll show you an image of Modigliani so you can get an idea of what he looks like. Alrighty. So his artist friends are like, hey man, chill, relax. Right? There's Ochilo and Chaim and English muse Beatrice Hastings. Modi seeks advice from his Polish art dealer and friend Leopold Borowski. You think it's Borowski or Zorowski? Sorowski? Zaborski? Zaborowski. I don't know. Leave that in the comment below how you think the proper way to pronounce that. But the chaos reaches a crescendo when he's faced with a collector who could change his life. All right, before we go any further, why don't I show you Beatrice? Because the story of muses throughout history, right, and the inspiration that they provide to artists, it's always beautiful. It's always fascinating. There's so many famous stories. In fact, I did a video, I believe, late in the summer of 2022 or the fall, where I talked about historic muses, and perhaps I'll do that again. A lot of people seem to like that. So here's what she looks like right there on the right, attractive gal. And this is Wikipedia, so no reason to read along, just listen. Beatrice Hastings was the pen name of Emily Elise, oh God, I don't know, Hay? How? Haif? Hach? Who knows? An English writer, literary critic, poet, and theosophist. Oh, theosophist, really? We talked about that for one of the houses we discussed in Los Angeles. All right, her work was integral to British magazine The New Age, which she helped edit along with her lover A.R. Orage. Prior to the outbreak of the First World War, Hastings was also friend and lover of Catherine Mansfield. Oh, really? Whose work was first published in The New Age. She also had love affairs with Medio Modigliani. All right, well, there we go. So one of many women, by the way. And like I said, we'll talk about that. Oh, and look, we've got a portrait of her by Modigliani. So that's interesting to see. This was painted in 1915. All right, let me go back to the article, and you can look at this artwork if you like while I do that. Born into an Italian Jewish family in Livorno, Modigliani moved to Paris in 1906 and became enamored of the bohemian life. His best-known works of nudes with elongated limbs were mostly painted between 1916 and 1919. There we go with the 19s again. Modigliani died in 1920, age 35, from tuberculosis, a condition worsened by his erratic lifestyle. While he had little money from his work while he was alive, his paintings now command huge prices, with his 1917 work, New Coche, probably saying that wrong, fetching 170 million pounds in 2015. I actually pulled that up. Let me go ahead and let's see if I've got that right. Is that right? Yeah, it's a nude. Very famous nude, by the way. Is this the right one? I think so. Let me let's pull that up and then we'll get back to this. I think it's the reclining nude. Let's see what we got. Yep, that looks like it. Okay. All right. Modigliani's reclining nude fetches second highest ever art auction price. Painting sells for 170 million. Woo, New York. 9 million less than Picasso's Women of Algiers in New York auction that also set Liechtenstein and Gauguin records. A painting by Amedeo Modigliani has fetched 170 million. That's 113 million pounds, for those of you who know what pounds mean, at an auction in New York, setting a world record for the artist. Reclining nude was sold at Christie's on Monday after a protracted bidding battle. It was the second highest price ever auctioned. I'm sorry, achieved at auction for a work of art. Christie said the painting was bought by private Chinese collectors. The Wall Street Journal named them as the billionaire investor, and it mentions them. You know, I've been to Christie's, not too far actually from where I am right now, where they have the auctions and the rest of it. Security is unbelievable. But one interesting place. In fact, I recall, oh, I wonder if that's where they went. I actually recall being in front, not in front of it, but I was walking towards it once. And then I walked past it and I saw two people. This happens in New York a lot, by the way, that there's no way in the world it was anybody on earth except for David Bowie and Iman. They got out of a car and they crossed in front of me so quickly that it was like it was like a fast forward. It was like a breeze. It was like it's like life happened in fast forward, but just for them, right? Like everything else was perfectly normal, walking a normal way, and then whew, David Bowie and Iman walk right past me. And you know, this is a thing that happens in New York all the time. I mean, not anymore with David Bowie since he's gone, but you know, celebrities walk past you and who cares, right? But it was such an unusual thing that I think for the first time ever, actually, I turned around. And actually, that's not true. I turned around after I met Woody Allen also on Fifth Avenue, he and Soon Yi. I was walking up Fifth Avenue. They were walking down Fifth Avenue. And I was walking, and there they were. I never talk to celebrities. That's not a thing in New York. You don't look at them, you don't talk to them. But it was the weirdest thing. I actually found myself talking to Woody Allen. I don't even, I didn't think about it. I didn't plan for it to happen. It just sort of like I was walking uptown on Fifth. He was walking down with Soon Yi. And I just kind of looked at him. He looked at me and I said something. And then we stopped and we actually talked. And I looked at him, I looked at her, I looked at him, I looked at her, and I purposely looked at her. One, I do that anyway when I'm talking to a particular person because the poor lady, she's a smart lady, an attractive lady, a warm and loving lady. And it must be unusual to be married to somebody who's rich and famous, you know, like that, especially somebody like Woody Allen who's so incredibly well known. And you kind of feel invisible, right? Now, and maybe some wives like that or husbands like that. I don't know, maybe. But there was no reason for her not to be involved in the conversation. And so we actually spoke. I don't even know how long. And then afterward, I kept walking. And then I said to myself, did I just talk to Woody Allen? And I turned around. So, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, and there they are walking away. So yes, that did actually happen. And so, but the thing with David Bowie and Iman, they walked right past me. It was like a breeze. And now I wonder, they probably weren't going to Christie's. They probably weren't. Because when you're famous like that, you probably have your reps, you know, buy it for you. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't mean that they necessarily would have gone to an auction. They could have gone because I think they open them up ahead of time, right? So you can go and look at it and get an idea of what it is you're going to buy. And so it's entirely possible that if that is where they were going, they could have gone in there ahead of time. They could have had a special, you know, because it's David Bowie and Iman, they could have had special access maybe to go in there when nobody else was around and be like, okay, you know, this is what's happening. But I don't know. For all I know, they were going to buy a bagel. All right, let's continue. Christie's said the painting was bought. Oh, I already said that. Asian collectors have been especially active in the art market for the past few seasons. The 1917 through 1918 painting is considered one of his best known works, definitely, and I'll show it again in a minute, and nearly created a scandal when it was first exhibited in Paris, definitely. I remember reading quite a bit about that. The private auction, I'm sorry, the previous auction record for Modigliani was 71 million. All right, no reason to read the rest of this article. So let me just, oh, look at that. All right. But anyway, so yeah, that's it right there. This famous painting. All right, let's go back to, let's go back to that article. I think we're almost done. So hang tight. Let's go ahead and pull that up and we'll wrap up. All right, Depp will shortly be seen in Louis the 15th. right? So you got the X, which is 10, you got the V, which is 5. Is that right? Yeah. In French period drama, Jean du Barry, directed by and starring Mawan, who I don't know who that is. I should. I can barely pronounce it. Let's pull that up really quick and find out who this talented human being is. Ah, it's a lovely lady. Okay, which I suspected. Maiwan? Maiwan Libesco, born in 1976. Spring Chicken. Known mononymously as Maiwan, is a French actress and filmmaker. Attractive lady. Look at this. She was born in 76, the daughter of an artist and a linguist. After her parents' divorce, she was abused by both her parents after their separation, having been beaten physically. I don't want to read this. All right, let's continue on. Her career. What is her career? I said she's got a couple of children. Let's see. Mom's still alive, got some relatives. Personal life. Don't know anything about her. Let's see. She was in, oh God, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. But anyway, she's obviously a lovely woman and very smart, and good for her for overcoming kind of adversity and her professional and personal triumphs. Good for her. All right, what else do we got? Which will have its world premiere on May 16th in the prestigious opening slot at the Cannes Film Festival. Really? That's pretty cool. All right, the festival defended this, says, okay, well, Johnny Depp's success in high-profile legal action with his former wife, saying it was not a controversial choice, adding, and this is a quote, if Johnny Depp had been banned from working, it would have been different, but that's not the case. That's it. That's all we got. All right, so cool. Good story. Let me go ahead and pull up. You want to see this, my one? Let's go ahead and pull that up. I'll show you her, and then I'll show you an image of Modigliani. And then as this story progresses, we will talk about it some more. All right, so you got that. That's the information I read. And there's one picture there, but I like this one. Isn't she pretty? Look at this cool outfit she's wearing. All right, so this is who he's working with right now. This obviously has nothing to do with the biopic. But let's go ahead and pull up Modigliani really quick. I had no idea I'd be speaking this long, but this is interesting news. If you're a fan of Hollywood history, if you're a fan of Johnny Depp, then this is exciting news. All right, so here we go. And that's Modigliani. I don't know if there's any other. That's where he lived. Actually, this is the story I wrote, actually, where I brought Johnny Depp and you, right? Because it's written in second person. For those who don't know, first person is I. So when you read a novel, it's like I walk down the street, right? And then, like I don't know, let's just say Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis, right? His books are written in first person. And then you have third person, which is, pretty much every other novel on earth, right? Which is he walks down the street and he turned the corner and he picked up some bubble gum and he put it on his mouth, whatever. That's third person. I know that's disgusting. I'm just thinking. Second person is very rare. It's very rarely used. I think, what's his name? Jay McInerney, right? Wasn't it his second novel, I believe, which was written in second person? I mean, there's been others, but let's see. Jay McInerney, his novel, I know this has nothing to do with anything, but let's see what it was. Oh, Story of My Life. If you read Story of My Life by Jay McInerney, published in 1988, and because first Brightness Falls, which he wrote in 1992, so that I believe was first person. I have that, and Story of My Life was written in second person. It's an interesting technique. It's a different way of writing, a different type of style. So, but that was written in the second person. So that way you had the experience of what it was like to walk with Johnny Depp through the streets of Paris and to go down the street and to go through those doors and to go up the very narrow staircase all the way to the top, which is where Modigliani lived and had his studio. So that's a portrait of Pablo Picasso painted by Modigliani. And then, ooh, look at that. His home in Venice. Very nice. Like that. Oh, look at that. Portrait of Khayyam Soutine, which we pointed out before. All right, and then of course we can continue this forever. Ah, there we are. His portrait. and 1916. Not his portrait, sorry. A portrait that he painted. Yeah, we could do this all day long. We could talk about his painting. So let's just go ahead and back up to his photo. So this is exciting. One of the reasons why I think a lot of people have an appreciation for Johnny Depp's career is that a lot of films get made that perhaps might not have been made had he not lent his name to it, right, in order for it to be financed, in order to attract other people. I've always liked costume dramas. I've always liked things that have a sort of the best word for it is sort of a magical realism, where you have real life going on, but there's an injection of magical realism in it. Things that clearly aren't possible in real life. And so, you watch something like Willy Wonka, right? Or, Pirates of the Caribbean, anything like that, really, where you have, special effects and just sort of magical and mysterious things happen over the course of a life, as opposed to just, leaving Las Vegas, where I know I beat up on that movie a lot, but I mean, come on. Who the hell wants to watch a movie? I know we won awards. I know it's a great film, but you really want to watch a movie about a guy getting drunk and killing himself for a couple hours? Not for me. So I like stuff like this, and I'm thankful that somebody like Johnny Depp shares similar interests and makes the types of movies that are fascinating and should be made. Because somebody like Modigliani, great talent, great inspiration, very motivational to learn about his life. And had it not been, you know what? Before I end this, let me pull this up really quick because I mentioned it earlier that Al Pacino supposedly was interested in this film with Martin Scorsese, and I saw that earlier. Let me see if I could just find that really quick. That might be a better way to end this. Yeah, here we are. Okay, I'm just pulling up the first thing that I've got, which is this is actually an important part of the story. I've not read this, but let me. Oh yeah, let me jump over to this really quick. You guys got a little bit more time? Hang tight. Let's do this. This is the whole idea. I mean, we're talking about strange Hollywood, right? Talking about Johnny Depp's career. So let's delve into this a little bit. This is Esquire.com. And let's see what we could learn here. So Al Pacino, Martin Scorsese, right there. I've been to Martin Scorsese's office, by the way. I wanted, when I was making a documentary one time, I went in there because there was a film called Storm Over Tibet, which I wanted to see, and I wanted to be able to get a clip from it, Storm Over Tibet. And it's one of, I think, Martin Scorsese's favorite films. And I know he has a print of it because he's mentioned it before. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I think nobody has this film. And so I actually went to Martin Scorsese's office and I said, hey, I'm making a documentary and I'm trying to see if I could watch Storm Over Tibet. And I think Martin Scorsese wasn't even in the country at the time. And then I ended up, producing my documentary and I didn't really need it. So there was that. All right. The story of Scorsese and Al Pacino's doomed 80s Modigliani movie. Let's see what there is. The pair failed to get their biopic of Italian artist Modigliani off the ground during an era of Hollywood cost cutting. That's surprising, especially if it was in the 80s, because the 80s were an interesting time in Hollywood because that was the introduction of VHS tapes, right? What was the other thing? Betamax, right? Those laser discs. They had all kinds of stuff, and they were battling for dominance, right? So, because think about it, if everybody didn't buy the VHS tapes, they just as well may have bought the Betamax. Is that right? Betamax or those laser discs. And so I think all three of them were being sold at the same time. And they're just fighting for dominance. But either way, you had this new thing, right, called videos and home recorders. And you would go right to a store, like like a supermarket, I guess, right? And they would have videos everywhere, like rent them, buy them, whatever the hell it is. And you would think that, and I think that a lot of movies were getting made for very low budgets in the 80s, right? In order to be able to just get get product out there to fill up these stores and to give people the stuff to buy. So I'm interested. Let's see what it says. Da, 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 da. Let's see. I'm just gonna, I don't want to read this whole article. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to zoom down here. Pacino starred alongside De Niro, la la la. He never performed it. Okay, he never collaborated with Scorsese, but that doesn't mean the shared interest wasn't there or that they didn't come close. Back in the 80s, the pair teamed up to pitch a biopic about the tragic 20th century painter Amedeo Modigliani, but were foiled by their own faltering box office returns and a Hollywood system in panic mode. Really? I'll learn more about that. That sounds interesting. I don't know. I'd have to review their career a little bit. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Al Pacino's always been a big star. And Martin Scorsese, I don't know how many, misses he had, right? But either way, let's see. It was Pacino who first wanted to bring Modigliani's scandalous life story to the big screen. The Italian Jewish artist, we're talking about Modigliani, best known for his controversial paintings of nude, long-limbed women, was regarded as an inveterate playboy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got stories. And drug addict in the early 1900s and died from tuberculosis at the age of 35. Closely followed by his pregnant wife, who threw herself. Oh, I was just going to say this. Exactly what this says here. Who threw herself out a window 2 days later. Yeah, that's a true story. She did. She was actually staying with her parents. And, she was just overcome with grief and jumped out of a window. His opium-fueled exploits in the bohemian backstreets of Paris were made the subject of an off-Broadway production, Modigliani, A Play in Three Acts by Dennis McIntyre in the late 70s. Pacino was certain it would make a great film. Definitely. A couple of quick things really quick about filmmaking. And so Budapest, I'm interested to see about the sets that they choose because for those of you who've been to Paris, it's incredibly beautiful and incredibly well maintained, right? But it can be expensive, I suppose, to shoot there. And so over the course of time, sometimes films that take place in Paris will be shot in Prague, right? And even Budapest, which obviously is appealing to a lot of filmmakers. He convinced Keith Barish, an entrepreneur turned free-spending film financier who went on to co-found Planet Hollywood, to buy the rights for £100,000 in the late 70s. Wow. And give Pacino complete creative control. I'm not sure if these dates are correct. Because didn't we see that the book or the play was published in 1980? And so if it wasn't published till 1980, I don't know. I'll look into this a little bit further and see what I could find out. But anyway, Pacino has always wanted to play Modigliani, and this purchase gave him an opportunity to work with a writer and bring in a director he likes. You know what? This is actually the subject for a whole other video. And I think I'm going to do that because there's a lot here to talk about. And so why don't we just go ahead and end this by saying that this biopic was something that Al Pacino wanted to do for a long time, and clearly from the 80s. And so with everything going on with Johnny Depp, they were probably talking as friends. And Al Pacino says, the timing is probably right. Why don't you direct again? I'll star in it. And why don't we just go ahead and get this Modigliani subject up and running into a film? And clearly Johnny Depp thought it was an attractive idea. And so off they go. So, all right, let me go ahead and end this right now. This concludes this episode of Johnny Depp's Strange Hollywood History. What do you think of this forthcoming film? Are you excited about it? Do you like biopics, or do you prefer, I don't know, straight up fiction and fantasy style type films? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And please become a member of my channel. If you want to support my research and hear more shows like this, please click on the link below so you can see how you can make a donation directly to me, and also how you could join me on other platforms where I post exclusive content, such as Patreon. Kindly be kind to all humans and to all non-human animals. Please don't eat them. And please do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter ASAP and adopt a cat or a dog, or more than one. You'll be very glad that you did. Go ahead and save a life today. You can adopt a cat or a dog and give them the loving forever home that they deserve, and it'll bring joy and happiness and love into your home. So please do that if you can. All right, everybody, my fellow strange historians, until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.